Now we turn to using that operation work standard sheet together with the job breakdown sheet focused on improving human performance. Okay, so we're going to use some techniques called job relations, job instruction, and job methods to improve not just the process but also the people in the organization. The objectives here are to just introduce you to training within industry concepts that were invented in the 40s for World War II. Job relations is a tool for supervisors to acquire specific leadership skills. So really focused on the need for the supervisor to understand how to engage those team members in learning and making this work their own. The job instruction is a tool for supervisors to acquire those teaching skills. So it's less about doing the work better and more about how we teach instructors or how we teach supervisors to be better teachers. And job methods is a tool for supervisors to acquire skill in improving methods. So this is how we drive improvement. But again, these are all oriented toward the supervisor because they play that critical role in bringing the engagement in place. And they're also the key trainer, right? So they need to understand how all this stuff ties together. So training within industry is one of the secrets to success of the Toyota production system. We mentioned it way back when we talked about the transition from mass manufacturing to lean manufacturing and how training within industry was used during World War II for the U.S. And then we included it in our recovery plans for Japan, and the Japanese companies embraced them and did something with it. So it was established in 1940 by the National Defense Advisory Commission, continued under the Office of Production Management, and then the War Production Board. So in 1942, you see it says they were made part of the War Manpower Commission and operated under the Bureau of Training. So the whole idea was to create this methodology for bringing people who had never worked in a defense contractor plant, never worked in any manufacturing kind of plant, to bring them in and teach them how to do this work to deliver consistent quality for wartime material so that we can use it to win the war. I know there's a lot of text again, but bear with me. Again, we had a compelling reason in 1940 and 1941 to do something like this. The vast majority of healthy men were called to go overseas and fight. That means all of these vacant positions in all of these factories needed to be filled by whoever was available to fill them. So anybody who had any exemption from the draft, and many, many, many women. Now, a lot of people kind of think that this was really the first chance for women to come into the factories and do all this stuff, and Rosie the Riveter and Heroes and everything else. But I'll point to textile industries throughout the 1800s were filled with women. We have a long history of abusing women in those kinds of industries, just like we have a long history of abusing all kinds of people in all kinds of industries. It's up to us, it's up to you to stop all that crap and make this better for people. So what's your compelling reason to improve? Think about that. So training within industry advocates upgrading all classes of people. So we're improving people. That's the very first thing we're trying to focus on. We want to make sure we're including job progression so people can go from one level to the next and increase their value to the organization. We want to rotate so they can do all kinds of different functions, giving the company more flexibility and giving them more satisfaction and having variety in their work. We also want to develop production specialists with intense instruction for the job. And then they might become the key folks who help the supervisor train other people. The development of skilled mechanics and the development of supervisors in particular through careful selection, assignment of specific supervisory duties, increasing responsibility and provision for related organized help. But remember, we want them to be good teachers as well. Another important step in operating TWI programs is making sure that management doesn't screw this up. Okay, middle management, those are the folks that link the supervisors to the executives, as it says. They've got to understand and accept the whole process for doing this so that they can provide the right kind of support to the supervisors and emphasize the importance that this brings to the organization. So in any plant, regardless of size, any job requires that one person owns it, right? You've got to be responsible for getting things done. So they really talk about appointing somebody in particular to oversee the training within industry programs so that it actually has somebody that is following along and making the plan to get everybody developed and everybody trained. Um, I would encourage you to put that in place, but recognize that that is a temporary assignment for somebody, because we want all the leaders to eventually take the leadership role in making this happen for companies. So training within industry includes these kinds of intensive programs in job instruction, where it gives that supervisor practice on how to break in men on new jobs. This is a quote from the documentation. And by the way, all of this documentation is available free with a good, clever Google search. You can find it. I've also got most of the PDFs on a library someplace that I might be compelled to dig out and make available to you guys. Send me a note. Let me know if you want that. Job methods helps the supervisor simplify and improve methods of doing a particular job, and job relations gives that supervisor practice in how to promote teamwork. That job relations is how do I relate to my individual people, so that we're not just the big boss and you do what I tell you to do because I told you to do it. Let's really build better relationships. So it's pretty foundational to the way we focus on making this lean transformation. Focused on relationships, focused on leadership, and they understood that in 1941 when they put this all together. What's up next? We're going to talk about specifically about job relations. I think we'll just truck on for this step. The foundation for good job relations, like it says, is you don't produce a ton of steel or a single Jeep. It's the people you supervise who turn out production. The supervisor needs to remember constantly that results come through people, not them. Okay, cannot emphasize that enough. This is designed to create better people no matter what industry you're in. In this job relations chunk, they have broken out 5 key needs of the supervisor. The first one is knowledge of the work. So if you're going to properly develop people, the supervisor has to know what they're doing. So they have to understand the works. They have to have practice with doing the work. They got to know what kind of materials are out there, what the quirks about the equipment and the machinery, and how everything has to be done, and what's the standard. So the supervisor has to have knowledge of the work to be an effective teacher. The supervisor has to have a clear knowledge of the responsibility. So again, that supervisor represents the first level of management, and we have for centuries had this gap between labor and management, and it's generally been adversarial. This was an effort to remove that wall and improve those relations. This is the argument for clarity of expectations. So senior managers need to be able to communicate absolutely clearly to the supervisors what is expected and what they're responsible for, and that supervisor therefore needs to pass that on down. Skills in instruction. So 2 knowledge points, 3 skill points. Skill in instructing, skill in improving the methods, and skill in leading. And again, skill in instructing is the job instruction module, skill in improving is the job methods module, and skill in leading is the job relations module. It talks specifically in the training with industry material about how to handle a problem. And what I wanted to do here is take this stuff from 1941 and compare it to what we kind of do in Lean right now. So with training within industry, when there's a problem, you first get the facts. Make sure you have the whole story, weigh and decide. I love how it says way back then, don't jump to conclusions. Apparently our human nature is to jump to those conclusions. But then take action. Okay? Once you've thought about it, once you get the facts, once you weigh and decide, then take action. It's your problem. Don't pass the buck. Don't expect anybody else to solve it. And then check those results. So you can kind of see plan, do, check, and then act. We got to add that act step. For Lean, here's what we got. For me, in particular, the concern, define that problem. Find the root causes, develop, test multiple countermeasures, and confirm that your results work. They also talk about specific conflict resolution steps. Make sure you let people share their concerns while you listen with empathy. Then check that you understand what they are saying and that they understand what your role in doing this is. And then share your concerns with them and check that they understand your concerns and explore solutions that address all those concerns. Sounds like problem solving to me. We're going to get into the job methods next, but I'm going to shorten this video right now.